Welcome to Tank Eyed Life Podcast, a product of FishKeepingLifeCo. I am so ready to jump into this deep dive. Last time, we sort of laid out the mission for Tank Guide Life, bringing clarity and confidence. But today, we're getting into the real stuff.
We really are. We're tackling the raw, unfiltered questions that probably keep every new freshwater hobbyist staring at their tank at 3 in the morning.
Exactly. And we didn't want to just guess what those questions were.
No, we looked at the data. I mean, we really dug into what people are actually typing into search engines, the crisis posts you see on forums over and over again.
Right. Where is all the confusing and, frankly, conflicting advice concentrated?
And we've boiled all of that noise down into the top 5 most searched, most asked, and probably most confusing questions in the entire freshwater community.
And our whole goal today is to give you that shortcut. We want to guide you from that feeling of confusion to, genuine confidence.
By providing clear, calm guidance that is, and this is important, totally science-backed, but also human-sized. We're not just giving you a checklist.
No, this is the blueprint. It's the why behind all the steps that matter.
And before we get into the nitty-gritty, I think it's really important to frame this whole discussion around the core values that really underpin every single piece of advice we give.
Whether it's here on TTG or when you're using one of the planning tools on the website.
Yeah, these are the non-negotiables.
And the first one, the absolute bedrock, is fish welfare first.
Always.
It means the health and, the biological comfort of the animals has to take priority over quick fixes or budget or even just how cool something looks.
If it's a choice between the health of the fish and, say, a cool-looking decoration, fish health wins. Every single time.
The second big one is no gatekeeping.
Ugh, yes. This is a big one for me. The aquarium hobby can, unfortunately, have a bit of a reputation for being exclusionary.
For sure. And we just believe that beginners deserve real, thorough explanations.
We're not just here to tell you what to do. We're giving you the why behind it. Replacing that, that frustrating because I said so answer with some actual scientific understanding.
And finally, small habits win. This is where it all comes together.
It really is.
We're here to tell you that consistency, like that weekly water change, testing your water diligently, just watching your fish, that stuff matters so much more than throwing money at the fanciest gear or some miracle chemical.
Those small, consistent habits are what create the stability your entire ecosystem relies on. It's everything.
And that guidance, it comes from our learn out loud philosophy, right?
Exactly. It's all forged from our own, continuous testing and research. This isn't just theory. We document everything we do in real-world experiments.
Like the ongoing logs from our 29-gallon reference tank.
Yeah, we rigorously track the maintenance, the parameters. We live this hobby every day.
Yeah.
And we share the honest lessons, including every single mistake we make along the way so that you don't have to repeat them.
And speaking of learning and community, we should probably pause for a second and thank our early listeners.
Oh, absolutely.
As a huge thank you for helping us grow, for following the show, rating us, commenting. We're running an exclusive giveaway just for you guys.
It's our way of giving a little something back to the people who really believe in this structured, competent approach to fish keeping.
You can enter for a chance to win your choice of either one of our physical daily tank journals, there's the standard one, or the specialized planted edition, or one of our educational coloring books.
And they're all designed to help you apply those small habits win principles. Yeah, tracking your water parameters screen-free.
We found that just the physical act of writing down your numbers helps solidify that habit.
It does. It makes patterns, like a slowly creeping pH or rising nitrate, way more obvious than just glancing at a digital number every now and then.
So to enter, all you have to do is comment the keyword FKLCPTG on any of our FishKeepingLifeCo social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you see our stuff.
This giveaway is only for a limited time, though. It ends before the end of the month, so don't wait on it. We'll pick a winner at random, and you'll have 48 hours to get back to us.
Okay, that's enough philosophy. Let's start talking chemistry. We've got a foundation to build. We're actually going to start with question 2.
We are.
Because it is the ultimate non-negotiable step 0. It's the gate that every single successful aquarist has to pass through, and it's where most beginners crash and burn.
Question 2. How do I properly cycle a freshwater aquarium before adding fish? And let's be super clear, this isn't just an option.
No.
It is the single foundation of fish health and system stability. If you misunderstand this or you try to skip it, you are actively inviting disaster, and, you're violating that core value of fish welfare first.
And when we say cycling, what we're really talking about is the nitrogen cycle. We have to break that down because if you get the chemistry, you gain so much control over your tank.
It's this amazing, natural, three-step biological process. It has to happen inside your filter media and your substrate.
Okay, so step one.
Step one, fish waste, uneaten food, decaying plants, all that stuff breaks down into ammonia. And you need to just burn that word into your brain.
Highly toxic.
Extremely toxic. Then, in step two, that's where the first group of your beneficial bacteria come into play.
These are the good guys we're trying to grow.
These are the good guys. Specifically, bacteria called nitrosomonas. They convert that super toxic ammonia into nitrite.
Okay, so nitrite, is that safe?
Nope. Also highly toxic. Only, slightly less dangerous than ammonia.
So we've just swapped one lethal chemical for another one. That sounds a little depressing.
It can feel that way at first.
Yeah.
But then comes step three, the final, crucial conversion.
The second team of bacteria.
A second, totally distinct group, primarily Nitrobacter or Nitrospira. They convert that toxic nitrite into nitrate.
And nitrate is the goal?
Nitrate is the end product. It's far, far less toxic. But it still needs to be controlled, usually through water changes or, in a planted tank, plant consumption. The whole point of cycling is growing enough of those bacterial colonies to process all that waste.
So the goal is for that conversion to be basically instant. The fish produce ammonia, and boom, the bacteria turn it into safe nitrates, so there's no toxic buildup.
That's the dream. That's a mature, stable tank. Now, to get there, we strongly, strongly advocate for one method: fishless cycling.
It's just the safest route, isn't it?
By far. Because you are intentionally dosing pure ammonia or an ammonium chloride source into an empty tank.
You're building the waste processing factory without forcing anyone to live inside while it's under construction. It's controlled, it's predictable.
And it's humane. The alternative is fission cycling. And we have to be really blunt here. While some very experienced hobbyists can manage it,
It's just so risky, and it totally goes against that spirit of fish welfare first, especially for a beginner.
because you're using the fish's own waste to create the ammonia, that means the poor fish are constantly swimming in this, low-level toxic soup.
It's a nightmare. It requires almost constant testing, sometimes multiple times a day.
And frequent, massive water changes. We're talking daily, sometimes 50% or more, just to keep the ammonia and nitrite levels below those critical stress thresholds.
You're putting immense prolonged stress on the animals. If you miss one water change, you've endangered them.
It's a terrifying tightrope walk. And that's exactly why our cycling coach tool is built entirely around the fishless cycling model. It just replaces all that fear and confusion with a guided, trackable process. It makes sure the home is safe before anyone moves in.
And what about timelines? What are we realistically looking at?
For a fishless cycle, you're typically looking at about 4 to 6 weeks to get a really robust bacterial colony.
And fish in.
It's often longer. Because you have to keep diluting the toxins with water changes, it can easily stretch to 6 to 8 weeks, which is just more time the fish are exposed to that stress.
And that timeline isn't always set in stone. I hear from people all the time asking why their cycle stalled or, why am I stuck on the nitrite phase?
And that's usually just environmental science at work. These nitrophine bacteria are, they're pretty particular about their environment.
Right.
Things like temperature, pH, even using bottle bacteria can dramatically change the timeline. For them to work at their best, they need warmth. Ideally between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit.
So if your tank is running cool, say in the high 60s,
Their metabolism just slows to a crawl, and your cycle will take forever.
and pH is another huge lever, isn't it?
It's massive. They really prefer slightly alkaline conditions, a pH between about 7.0 and 8.0. If your pH dips too low, and we're talking below 6.5, those bacteria can basically go dormant. Your cycle just stops completely.
Okay, so if you're stuck, check your temperature and your alkalinity. That's often the key.
It's the first place to look for sure.
Okay, so we've been dosing ammonia for weeks. Everything seems to be going well. How do we know for sure that the system is ready?
This is where we move past guesswork and into actual scientific proof. We call it the 24-hour challenge.
The bold standard.
It is. The proof that your filter can handle a real bioload is this. You must dose the tank with ammonia up to 2 parts per million, or 2 ppm. Then you wait exactly 24 hours and test again.
And the result has to be? What?
The filter has to completely process that 2 ppm of ammonia all the way down to 0 ammonia and 0 nitrite, all within that single 24-hour window.
And if you test after 24 hours and you still see, say, 0.25 ppm of ammonia.
The cycle is not complete. You need more time.
Yeah.
Your bacterial army just isn't big enough yet.
This challenge is so critical. It separates the people relying on luck from the ones relying on science. And our cycling coach tool, it really just walks you through this, turning it into a guided process.
And the tool actually goes a step further because it digs into the physics of toxicity. See, most of the common liquid test kits, they measure something called TAN, or total ammonia nitrogen.
Okay.
TAN measures both the really, really toxic form of ammonia, which is unionized ammonia, or NHS, and the much less toxic ionized form, NHA.
Wait, hold on. So the number I see on my test tube isn't actually the level of the stuff that's actively harming my fish.
Not exactly. It's the total of both forms. The critical insight here, the thing we want everyone to understand, is that the percentage of that truly toxic NHS changes dramatically based on two things: your water's temperature and its pH.
This is where it gets really interesting. It's all about thermal danger.
Precisely. The warmer the water and the higher the pH, the higher the percentage that truly toxic NHers you have.
So an ammonia spike in a warm, high pH tank is way more dangerous.
Exponentially more lethal than it would be in cooler, slightly acidic water. Temperature literally weaponizes the toxins in your tank.
So a reading of 1 ppm of TAN in, say, a cool, acidic tank might not be a huge emergency, but that same 1 ppm in a hot, alkaline African cichlids tank could be a total disaster.
That is the crucial difference. The advanced calculations in the cycling coach use something called the Emerson formula. It's a well-established chemical equation to estimate the concentration of that truly toxic NHuria.
And what's the danger zone?
We know from aquatic life criteria published by the EPA that values above 0.02 ppm, that's 200ths of a part per million, may already be causing acute stress and gill damage.
Wow, that is an incredibly low threshold.
It is. So if you're approaching that threshold, the tool immediately flags a severe caution. It tells you to pause stocking and, crucially, to increase aeration and do a water change right now. It's a layer of safety that lets you react before you even see visible signs of stress in your fish.
Understanding that chemistry is just so fundamental, and it brings us directly to the next most asked question, which, almost always happens when someone is right in the middle of this messy process.
Question 1. Why is my new aquarium water cloudy, and how do I fix it?
This is the #1 panic trigger for new hobbyists, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. They spend all this time setting up a beautiful, clear tank, they start the cycle, and the next morning, the water is milky white, it's opaque, it's hazy.
And their first instinct is to run to the pet store and buy a water clarifier.
Which is almost always the wrong answer. The cloudiness is pretty much universally a sign that something biological is happening, specifically a massive bacterial bloom.
Okay, so let's clarify the two types of bacteria again.
Right, so you have your nitrifying bacteria, the Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter we just talked about. They're slow growing, and they live on surfaces, like your filter media.
The good guys.
The good guys. The cloudiness, however, is caused by a different group, heterotrophic bacteria. These guys are extremely fast-growing, and they live free-floating in the water column, eating dissolved organic compounds.
So when we add that first dose of ammonia or fish food to start the cycle, we've just laid out a massive feast for all the bacteria.
Exactly. The heterotrophs multiply like crazy in the water column as they consume that initial organic soup, and that's what turns the water milky white. It's just the ecosystem settling in, figuring out who gets what resources.
And this cloudiness is often the first visual sign of what we call new tank syndrome, or NTS.
Right. NTS is that classic water quality crash that happens when people add fish before that essential nitrifying colony is stable. You get the visible bloom, the cloudy water, but then the fish start producing waste.
And the invisible ammonia and nitrate build up faster than the new bacteria can process it.
And you get that sudden lethal spike. We've all seen the results. Fish gasping at the surface, hiding, clamped fins. The cloudy water was just the warning sign before the invisible toxins took over.
And that's why the fix for the cloudiness isn't a chemical, it's patience.
It's patience and proper filtration. Those are always favored over some quick fix chemical.
Why do those clarifiers sometimes just make things worse?
Well, they often work by clumping small particles together so the filter can grab them. But when the cloudiness is biological, literally a cloud of microscopic bacteria dumping in, more chemicals can just shock the whole developing ecosystem.
So how does it clear up on its own?
The cloudiness resolves naturally as those slower-growing nitrifying bacteria get established on the surfaces. They start to outcompete the fast-growing heterotrophs for resources, and the whole system just settles into a rhythm.
And the common beginner panic moves, like overfeeding or cleaning too much, they just prolong the problem.
Absolutely. If you panic and start dumping in more food, you're just adding more fuel for that heterotroph bloom. And critically, if you start aggressively vacuuming the substrate or changing your filter media,
You're throwing away the good bacteria.
you are physically removing the very surfaces where your beneficial, slow-growing, nitrifying bacteria are trying to colonize. You're setting yourself back weeks.
So the action steps are super simple, but they require discipline.
That's it. Test your water. If you see ammonia or nitrite, just let the cycle continue. Wait it out.
Do not vacuum the substrate aggressively, just a gentle siphon of the surface if there's heavy debris.
And please do not change your filter media unless it's so clogged it's blocking water flow. And if you have to rinse it, only ever use old dechlorinated tank water. Never tap water. The chlorine will just nuke your entire bacteria colony.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
The cycling coach on the site walks you through all that timing perfectly. And for anyone just starting out, we always point you to good gear. You can check out our gear guide if you need a reliable liquid test kit, which is essential, and a good thermometer to track that critical temperature.
And just a quick pause here. For anyone listening who wants to apply these tracking principles we're talking about, just a reminder about the giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
If you want a chance to win one of our journals or coloring books, just comment the keyword FKLCTTG on any of our social media platforms. We're giving them away to say thanks to our early community, and the giveaway ends before the end of this month.
Okay, so we've covered the setup, we've covered the chemistry, the cycle is complete, you passed the 24-hour challenge, and the tank is biologically ready. Now, for the fun part.
The exciting part?
And also the most confusing part. Choosing your fish. This brings us to question 5.
Question 5. How many fish can I safely keep in my aquarium? For decades, the entire hobby was just ruled by this one. Utterly unreliable and scientifically bankrupt idea.
The 1 inch of fish per gallon of water rule.
Yes, that rule.
I remember using that when I first started, and it led to nothing but problems. I basically tried to put a semi-truck, which was my growing goldfish, on a moped track, which was my 10-gallon tank.
It fails our fish welfare first mandate completely. It only counts the fish's length. It ignores everything else that matters. Activity level, oxygen demand, waste production, behavior.
An inch of a skinny little neon tetra is just a completely different biological reality than an inch of a chunky high-waist goldfish.
Or a superactive zebra danio that's constantly darting around. You can have a tank that technically meets that old rule, but is a biological disaster just waiting to happen.
Because the filter can't handle the waste, or the fish are just totally incompatible.
And that's why we completely reject that rule. We insist on focusing on the concept of bioload.
So for someone who hasn't really internalized this concept yet, what is bioload, simply?
Bioload is the total biological burden that your filter has to process. It's the sum of all the waste fish poop, respiration, uneaten food, breaking down into ammonia.
It's basically how hard your filter has to work.
Exactly. It's the metric for how hard your filter works to keep ammonia and nitrite at 0. A successful tank is judged on how it manages its bioload, not its volume.
And when you use our stocking advisor tool, we look at factors far beyond just length to estimate that bioload. This is where that no gatekeeping idea comes in. We give you the full picture.
We calculate it based on 4 really crucial interacting elements. The first one is non-negotiable, adult size.
Not the tiny size you bought it at in the store.
No, you have to plan for the full growth potential of that species.
Yeah.
That's essential, especially with fish like common plecos or certain sharks that get huge.
Okay, what's the second factor?
Activity level.
Yeah.
This one gets overlooked all the time. Fast swimmers like danios or some of the barbs, they use way more oxygen and produce more waste than a slow cruiser like a gourami, even if they're the same physical length.
Higher activity means higher metabolism, higher demands on the whole system.
Right. The third is feeding response and habitat preference. You know, is it a surface feeder, a bottom dweller? A really aggressive, messy eater is going to put more uneaten food into the water than a slow, methodical grazer.
And the final piece ties right back to our first segment, filtration capacity. The filter itself matters.
Hugely. The stocking advisor uses your filter's gallons per hour, or GPH, flow rate to estimate the biological capacity of your tank.
We use GPH as a practical proxy, right?
Yeah, because while the true measure is biological surface area on your media, GPH is a spec you can find for almost any filter. A filter that turns the water over 5 times an hour through good media just has a higher capacity to grow bacteria than one that barely moves the water.
So GPH is a good shortcut for estimating that capacity, But you still can't cram 100 fish in a 10-gallon, even with a giant filter.
No, of course not. Space, oxygen, and territory are still hard limits. And we are always conservative. The bioload estimates we use are intentionally conservative to keep everyone, especially beginners, safe. We'd rather you be slightly understocked than dangerously overstocked.
And beyond just the raw numbers, the tool gives these incredible compatibility warnings, which is something the old inch-per-gallon rule could never do.
This is how we prevent behavioral disasters. The tool flags known problem pairs based on thousands of real-world observations.
It'll warn you if you try to put a known fin nipper, like a tiger barb.
With a slow, long-finned fish, like a betta or an angelfish. It flags shrimp hunters if you have invertebrates. It flags aggressive fish with peaceful schoolers.
It's not just about fighting, though. It's also about their environmental needs.
That's right. There's an environmental recommendations card that shows the overlapping temperature, pH, and hardness preferences for the fish you've selected.
So if you try to mix a soft, acidic water fish with a hard, alkaline water fish,
The tool alerts you to that chemical conflict. It's a practical way of applying that no gatekeeping philosophy. It gives you all the info you need to either tune your water chemistry or adjust your fish list so everyone can actually thrive.
And going back to that small habits win mentality, even if the stocking advisor says your tank can handle 20 fish, you can't add them all at once.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
Adding fish gradually over several weeks is absolutely critical. Your beneficial bacteria colony needs time to adjust to that increased bioload.
What's the best practice?
Add one small group or species at a time. Then wait 2 or 3 weeks while you keep testing your water daily. This prevents a secondary ammonia spike that could cause new tank syndrome, even in a fully cycled tank.
And for people with planted tanks, the stocking advice can actually change over time.
It does. Once you add dense, fast-growing plants, your effective bioload capacity actually goes up because the plants act like secondary filters, consuming ammonia and nitrate. The stocking advisor assumes a fresh setup, though, so you should always revisit your plan once your plants are well established.
Okay, we are moving into the world of the green thumb now. Planted tanks are amazing, but they introduce a whole new set of confusing variables.
Which leads us right into question 3. Why are my aquarium plants turning yellow, melting, or developing holes?
And the first thing we need to say here is just reassurance.
Yes. Plant issues are almost universal. Every single successful aquascaper has dealt with them. It is not a sign of total failure. It's usually just a sign that the environment is in transition or there's a temporary nutrient imbalance.
Let's start with melting, because
Yeah.
that causes so much panic when you first bring a plant home and it just seems to disintegrate.
That's classic transition stress. A lot of commercially available plants, especially the ones in those little pots, are grown immersed.
Meaning their leaves are grown above the water, in the air.
Exactly. Their roots are in water, but the leaves are out in the air with access to all the CO2 in the atmosphere. When you submerge them in your tank, those immersed grown leaves are not adapted for underwater life.
They're basically land leaves trying to breathe underwater.
Pretty much. So they will often die back or melt as the plant redirects its energy into growing new, submersed leaves that are properly built for aquatic life. A little melting in the first 2 to 3 weeks is perfectly normal.
You just have to trim away the dying, mushy leaves so they don't foul the water.
Right. Now, if the melting continues past that initial phase, or if the whole plant turns yellow or you see those distinct holes, that points to a nutrient deficiency.
We're getting into plant physiology now.
A little bit. Uniform yellowing across the whole plant, called chlorosis, often signals a nitrogen deficiency. If the oldest leaves are yellowing first, that usually means the plant is moving nutrients around to feed the new growth. But if only the newest leaves are yellow, that can point to a deficiency in an immobile nutrient, like iron.
I see the little holes all the time. What causes those telltale pinholes in the leaves?
That is the classic sign of a potassium deficiency. Potassium helps regulate water and nutrients inside the plant. When it's lacking, the cell walls start to break down, and you get those neat little punched-out holes.
So plant problems are basically the plant telling you its environment is unstable.
It's either transplant shock, a nutrient issue, or an imbalance in the big three. Light, nutrients, and CO2.
And we can't talk about plant health without talking about the lighting factor. Light is the engine.
It drives everything. If you have plenty of nutrients but not enough light, the plants can't use them. If you have way too much light and not enough nutrients, you get algae.
Our Gear Guide quick answers are really specific about this. We recommend full spectrum LEDs.
Yep, specifically in the 6500 to 7500 Kelvin range. That mimics natural midday sun. But the color isn't enough. the intensity matters just as much.
And we measure that intensity with PO, photosynthetically active radiation.
For easy, low-tech plants, your Java ferns, Anubias, easy crypts, you want to aim for a PR of about 30 to 50 right at the substrate. If you go much higher than that, like a PR of 80 or 100, without also injecting CO2 and dosing fertilizers,
You're just growing algae.
you're dumping a ton of energy into the tank and just inviting a massive, uncontrollable algae problem.
Which brings us perfectly to question 4. How do I get rid of algae, especially in planted tanks? Everyone hates it, but the tank guide philosophy is so important here.
Algae is a symptom, not the root problem.
That mindset shift is everything.
It is. Trying to kill the algae without fixing the underlying environmental cause is a losing battle. You might kill the current bloom, but if the conditions that favored its growth are still there, it's just going to come back stronger next week.
So what's the underlying cause we need to fix?
Algae control is all about finding and maintaining the balance formula, balancing your light intensity and duration, your nutrient levels. We usually aim for a nitrate level around 10 to 20 ppm in a planted tank, and your CO2 availability. Algae thrives on imbalance.
So manual removal and fixing that balance is always better than just dumping in algicides.
Always. However, there is one type of algae that often needs a more direct intervention while you work on that balance.
You're talking about blackbeard algae? BBA.
Ugh, BBA. That fuzzy, dark, tough stuff that clings to leaf edges and driftwood. It's notoriously stubborn.
And it usually signals an issue with inconsistent CO2 or nutrients or maybe poor water flow.
Right. And we've written about this a lot. Liquid carbon products often fail against it, unless they're targeted. So let's do a deep dive on the still water spot dosing technique using something like Sechum XL. This is a game changer for BBA.
The whole point is maximizing contact time, isn't it?
It is. You're creating this tiny, super concentrated zone of algaecide right on the algae so it doesn't just dissipate into the water.
Okay, so walk us through it, step by step.
It's a precise 5-step process. Step 1, and this is non-negotiable, turn off the flow, all pumps, all filters, all power heads, all air stones. Off for at least 10 to 15 minutes. The water has to be completely still.
Why is that so critical? I know people try to just squirt it in with the filter running.
And it just doesn't work. If the water's moving, the second that liquid carbon leaves your pipette, it's instantly diluted across the entire tank. You lose all the concentration you need to kill the algae. Stopping the flow lets it sit there and burn the algae tissue.
Okay, flow is off. Step 2.
Prepare the dose. Get a pipette or a syringe and load up about 2 milliliters of the liquid carbon for a moderate patch.
Step 3. Spot dose directly. You get right up to the BBA and slowly dispense the liquid right onto the patch. You want to see it kind of envelop the algae.
Step 4. Wait. Just let it sit for that 10 to 15 minutes while the flow is off. Let the product really absorb into the algae strands.
And finally, step 5. Restore flow. After 10 or 15 minutes, you can turn everything back on.
The results are so satisfying. By day 2 or 3, the treated BBA will turn this really striking red, pink, or even white color. That's how you know it's dying.
And then it starts to shrivel up, and some of your cleanup crew, like a mono shrimp, will actually eat the dead stuff.
They love it. But remember, that spot dosing is the immediate fix. The long-term solution is still getting back to that balance formula. Stabilize your light, fix your flow, manage your nutrients.
That focus on clarity brings up that funny side effect we've written about with products that polish the water.
You're talking about synthetic resins like Purigen.
I love that stuff. It's an amazing water polisher. It pulls out all the tiny dissolved organics that give the water that slight yellow tint.
It gives you that showroom crystal clear water. But the funny downside is, once that haze is gone, your water is so clear, you suddenly see every single speck of green spot algae on the glass that the haze used to hide.
It's the ultimate double-edged sword. You succeed in cleaning the water, but now you have this crystal clear window into all your other maintenance failures.
It makes everything painfully obvious.
Yeah.
That's why we always say Purigen is the polish, not the paint. It doesn't fix the underlying problems, but it makes your hard work shine.
And for anyone really diving into planted tanks, we have to mention the planted edition of the Daily Tank Journal. It's designed specifically for this, with pages to track CO2, lighting schedules, and nutrient dosing to help you keep that balance.
Consistency. It all comes back to consistency.
That's the mantra. And before we wrap up, if you found this deep dive into plant science helpful, remember to follow the show and comment that keyword, FKLCTTG, on our socials for a chance to win one of those journals.
We've covered 5 huge questions today. These are really the biggest hurdles for any aspiring aquarist. So let's just quickly recap how these solutions all tie back to our core philosophy.
It all started with cycling, Q2, the invisible engine. Understanding that three-step nitrogen cycle is the difference between having control and just constantly being in crisis mode.
Which led right into cloudiness, Q1. We show that you don't need to panic. It's usually a temporary, self-resolving sign that the biology is kicking in. Patience wins, not chemicals.
Then we hit stocking, Q5, and we completely moved away from those old, simplistic rules to embrace bioload, activity, and compatibility. That is a direct commitment to fish welfare first.
And finally, we talked about plant issues Q3 and algae Q4, confirming that success isn't about fighting symptoms. It's about finding and rigorously maintaining that balance between light, nutrients, and CO2.
And the one consistent thread that weaves through all 5 of these solutions, from the nitrogen cycle all the way to algae control, is the value of small habits win.
That is the most profound takeaway we can offer. Consistent testing, small regular water changes, proper filter maintenance, and just daily observation. That matters more than any expensive gadget you can buy.
Those small, repeatable actions are what keep your tank stable long-term and move you from just managing crises to actually enjoying your tank.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the specifics, we really encourage you to continue the journey by exploring the full tank guide ecosystem. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, you can find so much more at our media hub on the website. We have tank logs, videos, and research insights from our own reference tanks. You can see the science in action, not just hear about it.
And for the people who really want the why behind the why, check out our university page. That's the research backbone of everything we do. It has links to academic articles on water chemistry and fish health from places like Duke, Penn State, and UFIFAS.
It's the source material that proves why that 0.02 ppm threshold is a real non-negotiable number.
And we want to see your success too. You can use the Submit Your Tank feature to share your own setups and lessons learned with the whole community. It's all about learning from each other's real-world data.
We truly hope this has given you the clear, calm guidance you need to move from that state of confusion to, absolute confidence in your aquarium journey.
And as a final provocative thought for you to explore on your own, don't treat your aquarium water as just this passive, inert liquid. Remember that it's a reactive chemical environment. pH, temperature, and toxicity are constantly interacting. The best learning happens when you connect that research to the actual test readings from your own tank. Keep testing, keep observing, and trust the process.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the most searched freshwater questions. Please take a moment to follow the show, leave a 5-star rating, and subscribe to Tank Guide Life wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget that exclusive giveaway for the journal or the coloring book. It ends before the end of the month. Use the keyword FKLCTTG to enter, and the winner will have 48 hours to respond. Until next time, keep those small habits winning and happy fish keeping.